What's going on, everybody? Thanks for joining me. This is John Torres, Infotech Getty, and infotechgetty.com. Today, we're comparing two paddles that have a lot of similarities, but are very different in performance. The Vatic VSol Pro V7 long handle and the Bread Butter Loco. These two paddles actually feel closer than you think, but they go about performance in different ways. Let's get right to it. But before we do, full disclosure, I paid full price for these paddles. No money was exchanged. This is not sponsored by them. But if you use discount code on any Vatic Pro paddle, I do get an incentive and it helps out the channel. Let's get right to this comparison review. Overall, I really like both paddles. I've done some comparison of the Bread Butter Loco versus other paddles like the Tornazo and so forth. So you definitely can see those videos there. I'll put it in the description down below. But I finally got my hands on the VSol Pro on Black Friday, but it's just taken some time off during the holidays and the new year to finally give you guys a perspective video. So let's talk about the Vatic V7 long handle. The Vatic V7 long handle leans a little bit more towards a controlled power, if that makes sense, but still gives you solid power on drives. It has the same kind of foam, knock sound, very similar, but not as deep tone as the Bread Butter Loco. Not as super loud, which is very satisfying. So if you're not wanting a really loud knocking sound like the Bread Butter Loco, the Inferno, and so forth, this is definitely a great satisfying feel and sound. The Loco, on the other hand, feels more firm and poppier. It has a great sweet spot. You're not going to get a pocketing of plush as much as you would as the Vatic, but you still will get some of it. It's just not as noticeable compared to the Vatic one there. One big difference right away is that the Loco is a heavier paddle, which is why it feels more stable and honestly does not need weight. I tried to add weight on the corners, on the side. It just really doesn't provide what I need. Honestly, this thing is standing up. I've really used it the most paddle lately in the last few months since it came out. But nevertheless, it is a solid paddle. The Vatic V7 long handle is it's lighter. Not as, super light, but it is lighter and does benefit from the lightweight with extra customization. So if you want a little bit of customization, you want to get it to the Loco, you could do that. You don't need weight for this one as well. But I will say it does need a little bit for stability. So if you're twisting, so if somebody hits it and you're not hitting it dead center, the twisting could happen, especially when you're trying to do resets. Nevertheless, it's still a great paddle that doesn't need weight. Now, let's get right to the power and pop segment. So obviously, I like to reference John Q's database. He does a lot with the radar gun. I don't have one, so I like to reference that. The power and pop numbers between these two aren't really that much of a difference. But on court, you're going to see and feel that a little bit more. The Loco definitely has more pop. That's coming because of the CFC layer on the face. So it has a carbon fiber, fiberglass, carbon fiber layer versus the VSol has just all carbon fiber on that. The Vatic still drives well, like the ball pocket is just an amazing feel. The feel is different, just a little bit on a muted pocket, but also knocking sound, if it kind of makes sense. You still get some nice feel and dwell on that. Overall, I like it because of that sake. Nevertheless, the power and pop, you're definitely going to get more pop numbers based on the Loco. Power, they're pretty neck and neck. I think maybe the Loco is just a hair much, but I could be wrong. I'll leave the numbers in the description down below. Now, let's talk about three things that I love to talk about, which is in 3Ds, is dinks, drives, and drops. In this segment, I like to talk about and pick which one I prefer over the other, which could kind of give you a perspective of which ones I like in that segment. Let's talk about drives. For drives, this one's tough because the powers are pretty similar. The grit on these are pretty close. I have the VSol Power. The grit on the VSol Pro has more grit on this, and right away when I got it, it reminded me of the Bread Butter Loco. So if you're looking for great spin, both of them are really going to provide that. Why does it matter for drives? Because you want that ball to dip in and not just fly off to the back and get out of bounds. So the Loco gives that firm poppy hit on drives. You're not going to get a lot of pocketing on here on those drives. You're going to feel it because of that fiberglass layer that's inside there. But the Vatic definitely edges it out on feel slightly because of that pocketing. It almost reminds me, this one sometimes, believe it or not, reminds me a little bit of the Inferno style pocket feel. Not as much, doesn't have that slingshot kind of feel. Is not as poppy. That's because it doesn't have that CFC layer that the Loco has. So if I were going to give one of these the advantage, it's going to be, honestly, this is the first time I'm going to do it, I'm going to say this is actually a tie. Both of them really do provide a great advantage. It's just based on feel at this moment. I'd say both of them are really outstanding for drives. Let's talk about drops. Now, this is where things are going to be a little different. The drops, honestly, is going to go to the Vatic VSol Pro. Why? Because it's less poppy. It's easier to take off the pace off the ball. And I noticed something interesting. The grit on here, like I said, feels, and it is similar to the Loco. So definitely you're going to get that nice spin so it can dip in over the net. My V7 Power doesn't have the same grit, so I'm not sure if this is something new specific to the V7 or something else that Vatic's doing. But nevertheless, super impressed by the drops. And it's more forgiving because it just doesn't have as much pop and feel. This one is a little bit more firm. You can definitely feel a little bit more how this one has that more control. So for drops, I'm going to give it to the Vatic VSol Pro. Now, Dinks is going to be close. It's going to be very close to the drives. I love the sound and consistency and stability of the Loco at the kitchen. It takes less effort to get good results. It is a heavier paddle, so you're going to get more stability for that. If you're looking for stability, you can obviously add weight on the Vatic if you needed to match something like the Loco. That said, the Vatic feels more connected. I don't know why. Just every time I pick it up, it feels very connected. I have a better pocket feel, a little bit more touch. But you do need to add a little bit more just so you can get the ball exactly where you need. I mean, it's just very neck and neck. But if I were going to give a winner on this one, I'm going to say is the Loco because it already has that stability, it already has a lower knocking sound. I feel like I can hear and feel and know where the ball's going. It still has some great control. So if you want something like that, it definitely provides for it. The Vatic is, again, it's not by far from that, but just because of how this one feels and it's more stable and the sound, I'm going to give it to the Loco here. Now, let's talk about resets. I really don't talk too much on resets. So let's say if you drive the ball and you're trying to get into the transition, you're halfway in the court and somebody's driving it at you and you want to just put your paddle out there. You know, I determine which paddle is going to provide what I'm looking for to get the ball over the net with less effort, some control, and some pop. That's where I want to talk about resets. Resets, again, were not easy. Again, these are one of my favorite paddles out here right now. But I'm going to say that this one is going to go to the Bread Butter Loco just because it has more of that pop. There were times where I just needed to put my paddle out there in the defense while they were hitting the ball hard, and I just wanted it to get over. It provided some great stability for that. Now, there were some times if you're kind of off center, you definitely feel some kind of, I don't know what, it's some static kind of vibration. So sometimes that can kind of shake things up a little bit. So it's not perfect for that. That's really going to take some finesse, and you really need to make sure you're hitting it in the center to get that real nice response. So it's not perfect, but I would say that if you want something a little bit better for resets with more pop, I prefer it, even though sometimes the ball is getting a little higher up than you want to. So that's something I need to work on. But at the moment, when you stick your paddle out, you want to just have it do the job. The Loco is just going to edge it out over the over the Vatic. But the Vatic just keeps up. The Vatic is definitely doing its job. I really enjoy it now. Definitely has that absorbing of power and pop. Definitely going to do what you need. Nevertheless, I prefer the Loco in this one. Now, let's talk a little bit about Volleys, weight, and stability. I did talk a little bit about stability already, because the Loco is heavier, has a heavier swing weight. But let's talk about the no volley zone. This is when you get up to the kitchen, you're dinking, and then somebody speeds it up and you need to kind of hit it back, or you want to speed it up. The lighter Vatic actually shines in that. It has a lower swing weight, which makes it easier to react quickly. Something I'm really noticing more, that I'm not a fan of the Loco. I don't have statistics on this. I wish I had a machine. I don't have anything to weigh it. But this definitely has to be way over a 120 swing weight. And I can tell it's super top heavy, so it definitely provides for that. I mean, this is the most I've ever had in any paddle. I do like it for its reason. That's why it is my main paddle. But nevertheless, I'm not a fan. I have to really anticipate, have my paddle really ready to get that so I can block and reset and punch if I need to. But the Vatic VSol Pro exceeds on that one. Super lightweight, still has some head weight on here, meaning that it's swing weight still up there compared to maybe some hybrids, but nevertheless really better than the Loco. So Loco's higher swing weight takes it a bit more effort to get into position, but once you're there, stability and pop really help. But the clear winner for me is the VSol Pro on battle exchanges. So let's talk about price and value. So again, I bought these both with my own money. I actually got this on Black Friday. Amazing deal for that one. But you can still get it now for $100 after my discount code, Tech Yeti, which is not bad. It's an amazing price for $100. Again, I'm still a fan of Vatic Pro, but lately I've been getting used to my Bread Butter Loco. This one right now, you can get it for $180 after discount code. I don't have any coupons or discount codes, but you can definitely search others out there. You can use John Q's, Pickleball Studio, Pickleball Pursuit, whoever you prefer out there. There's plenty of ambassadors out there as well. $180 to $100, obviously Vatic is going to be, and it's still one of the best value companies out there for paddle prices. If you want full premium experience, I would say get the extra cash and get the Loco. The design, by far none. You're definitely going to get, it really stands out, to be honest. It has that nice butter yellow edge guard, nice design, the grip, and nevertheless, it came in a nice package. So if you're wanting a little bit more of the experience, I would say go with the Loco for the price. Now, if you're saying, I don't care about that, which one would you go? Why do you want to go with something like this based on the price? So if you're budget conscious, if you really want to get that, obviously price is going to make a big difference. But in my experience, if I were to choose one of these, and obviously I paid for these myself, but if I were to go to a tournament tomorrow, which paddle would I choose? With what I just said through here today, I'm going to be honest and tell you that the paddle of choice would be the Bread Butter Loco. It's been my main for the past few months. I'm really enjoying the paddle. It's super stable, powerful, controlled. And despite having the pop, I still find myself, like, compared to some other paddles, it just hits, it's just finds where it needs to go. I hit it and it needs to go there. Now, there are some times here and there where it is a little bit poppy, but that's just me based on how hard I'm grabbing the grip. That said, the VSol Pro V7 long handle stays in my bag. It's slightly toned down version in terms of pop compared to this, but nevertheless, still a great paddle. For the price, you can't go wrong for $100. Nevertheless, hopefully you guys like this video. Click on a thumbs up, leave a comment down below, and tell me which paddle you choose and why. And if there's a 10 butter edge guard around there and you're seeing it, definitely you won't regret it. Now, if you're not a fan of this edge guard color, Bread Butter does have the blackout edition, but guess what? They've been selling out of this paddle since it launched. Nevertheless, I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.